So what does they do? What do they do, Patrick? They say, okay, his value is about 1.5. What anybody else would have give. So then give him a little half so he has a little leg up. Now if you do the math now, Patrick's salary is the same 40 hours Patrick working. 500 times 1 times 1.5, I'm going to give Patrick a total, and 1.5 is going to be 750. Now, Patrick ending up, and look at this lovely, lovely family line. Patrick end up making $30,000. Now, welcome back, everybody, and we're going to be looking on a wonderful topic. Now, here's the thing. Success in Jamaica looks different depending on where you start. Some persons are born rich, so you're born set. But the rest of us who don't have that money stashed away in a trust fund or such, we have to focus on constant growth. Now, for today, what we're going to be looking on is what really makes success in Jamaica possible. The overall aspects of qualification, mindset, risk, and how your salary is equal to your market value. So stay tuned. If you get benefit from this video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you have any topics you want me to cover, you can go ahead and leave them in the comment section. So let's dive in. And in traditional fashion, we're going to be doing some writing. Now, we're going to be looking on the whole aspect of qualifications as it relates to it providing opportunities. Now, here's the thing. When it comes down to Jamaicans, we may settle for a job paying us, let's say, $450 per hour. And we'll settle for a job for some Jamaicans. I know some of these Jamaicans aren't you guys, but we have persons who are settling for a job that will pay them overall, let's say, $150 per hour. And yes, you actually have jobs that pay $150 per hour. Now, what's that in relation to qualification and opportunity? The difference between a person who is making, and let's look on the per hour basis, making $1,500 an hour compared to a person making $150 per hour, all boils down to the qualification. There's a saying that a lot of persons should know about, and it's a very popular saying, and it's even found in the Bible. It says to study to find thyself what? Approved. Now, the key aspect is this. Your qualification boils down to you studying and getting the particular quote-unquote paper, and that piece of paper proves that you are what? Competent. Because a lot of persons don't know this. When it comes on to you going to school from, let's say, basic school or primary school or wherever, starting from when you just start school at basic or infant school, right up to you finishing your degree, the whole purpose of that is to prove your competency. So, you getting qualified will open the doors for opportunity. So if you're stuck in that job that is paying you that $150, you need to open your eyes and say, okay, what can I do to upskill myself? What can I do to improve myself? What qualifications can I get? And the qualifications may not be a case where you have to pay dollars and go to school. You can do an internship. You know a guy down the road that does welding. You can say, okay, I want to learn little welding, and you work with the gentleman doing the welding. You can even have persons who are doing tiling, mason work, carpentry work, learning from them, and they're willing to actually teach you. So, overall, being that particular apprentice is a way of taking your opportunity, getting that qualification so that you are able to go ahead and get the particular job that you're seeking. And if you're going to be doing that aspect, you can actually look on the whole aspect of growth, because growth does not mean that you are getting bigger in size, right? Growth doesn't mean, and we're talking not biological growth, but we're talking overall when it comes down to self, right? Now, getting bigger is not the case of growth. What makes growth is improvement. We need to form a system of improvement as we go forward. There's a saying that everybody should know from, I think it's a 2005 movie, and I hope I don't get copyrighted for that, Finding Nemo. And Dorothy in Finding Nemo kept on saying, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And a lot of people may ask why she keeps saying that. It's actually a mantra for keep going forward. Rocky Balboa said it. Always keep going forward. Because if you stand still, you are going to get stuck. And Jamaican people will say, water that stays still will start to stink. And you don't want to stand still. So having that growth mindset is important. And that even boils back down to the job you currently have. I want you to keep this in mind, right? And I want you to make a note of this. You're all working in something they call a system. Every job is a series of systems. Every organization is a series of systems that work alongside together. Your job should never be your life. Your job should never be your life. And I don't mean that you're just gonna not go to the person's job and go to the employer's job and just don't do anything. You should do your job. Don't make your job your life. Why? Because at the end of the day, you are replaceable. You are easily swapped out if anything happens. So, be strategic. Choose the jobs you want strategically. It's not just a case of just getting up, getting employment, making money, and going to your bed. You have to be strategic with it. Okay, if I'm going to apply for this position, what is my next move? You always have to think improvement, and that is a thing where a lot of young people lack when it comes on to upskilling themselves, right? Mobility, and they need to plan. Because at the end of the day, all of these three things guarantee success. You should have an end goal that is so extraordinary that you're going to look on yourself and say, if I don't make it, at least I reach close. There's a shoot for the stars. If you miss, you land among the sky or something like that, or shoot for the moon. Anybody want to shoot for your shoot for it. But what I'm saying is this. At the end of the day, you have to, at the end of the day, ensure that you always find ways to improve yourself. Right? And if it's a case that you go ahead and do a level 2 course, a level 3 course, if it's a case where you go and you get a particular certificate in an area, always be strategic. Now, if it's a case you are being strategic, there's something you need to keep in mind. They say that knowledge, talking just street savvy. We're talking knowledge in general. Because if you have the knowledge, you can solve a problem. If you solve a problem, you can earn from solving that problem. And there are hundreds of organizations that are centered around that. One problem that we have is food, right? We want food. I know no one is going to travel to the several factories or manufacturers to get the various items you want in your pantry. But a supermarket does all of that for you. So it solves the problem of need of ease. You have everything at your fingertips. Solving problems is what pays. Solving problems is what causes you to grow. Because, give an example, you can't do electrical work. You hire an electrician. You have a problem. You want the house to get wire, but you can't wire the house yourself. So you hire somebody who is competent, who have the qualifications, right, to solve your problem here of you wanting to get your house wired. So, solving problem, and trust me, these electricians are making bank. So, solving problems will give you that opportunity to grow. Now, let's look now on the aspect when it comes on to risk and reward. We spoke about that in a previous video. And I want you to understand something. There's a philosophy that I live by. It's called the 70-30 principle. How does that work for me? If whatever I'm doing has a 70% upside and a 30% downside, and these are the ranges that I try to go. So if it's 70% and more, I will go to do it. But if the downside is 30% or less, we still gonna do it. Meaning that the upside must always be 70%. Always be 70% and more, not less. Now, let's now look on the whole aspect when it comes on to your salary, right? So we talk about all of those lovely things. So let's look at the salary, all right? Now, government workers will know that they get paid in either bands or some of them get paid in streams. So the basic formula for salary is S is equal to H, and H is your hours, all right? Multiplied by the max amount, right? And the max amount takes into consideration W min. And what W min is minimum wage. Minimum wage. They take that into consideration, and they also take into consideration W mark, which is the market value, right? And the market range of that particular job, I will multiply it by the overall value that the organization will deem you to be. This is the formula, and we're going to look on how this formula works, right? So let's look at an example, right? A proper example. We have two persons. Let's call this person Bob. Let's call this person Patrick. Now, let's look at Bob and let's look at Patrick. Now, using the same formula of S is equal to your hourly rate, right? S is equal to your hourly rate times the max of the minimum wage, right? Your market value times the overall value for the organization. We're going to use that formula. Let's look at Bob. Bob is going to be working 40 hours for the week. 40 hours. Now, Bob has basic skills. In this case, the minimum wage that they are legally allowed to pay Bob is $400. Not even say $400, let's say $500 an hour, right? That's the minimum wage. The market value that they're willing to pay Bob is also one. They're matching it to the market value. They're matching it to the market value. Now watch me. The estimated value that they believe Bob will bring to the organization is the same one. So the minimum wage that legally allowed to pay is $500. The market deems his value as 1, and the value the organization deems him to provide to them is 1. So let's do some maths now. So that is 40. What 40? 500 times 1 times 1. Bring me back to 500. So overall, for that 40-hour work week, Bob is making roughly $20,000. Now, let's take a look at Patrick's situation. Same formula. Patrick is working the same 40 hours. The minimum wage for that position that Patrick is working is $500. Now, the market value say, okay, Patrick work is good. We'll still deem him as one. So when the market say, okay, is a one-to-one ratio to the minimum wage and what Patrick is going to be paid over. So we're not going to stress Patrick. But when Patrick went to the interview, Patrick said, I can do X or Y very well, and he demonstrated that to the employer. All right, I have this skill set that is added. I have this experience. I did an internship with that individual and so on. And he would have done his liaison and communication and all of these lovely things with the organization. So the organization said, no, man, Patrick can actually help. So what does they do? What do they do with Patrick? They say, okay, his value is about 1.5. What anybody else would have give. So then give him a little half so he has a little leg up. Now if you do the math now, Patrick's salary is the same 40 hours Patrick working. 500 times 1 times 1.5, I'm going to give Patrick a total, and 1.5 is going to be 750. Now, Patrick ended up, and look at this lovely family now, Patrick ended up making $30,000. You see what I make? $30,000 compared to Bob. And that's how they do the calculation, right? The market value, the minimum wage, and what value you will provide to that organization. The market value a lot of times don't change because a lot of companies, they rather to match the market value. So if you look around, as an accountant or a CPA, is a specific dollar value. So the market value doesn't normally change. It's unless a case that they really need you, they will change that value. But what can change is your overall value to that organization. The value to the organization that they say, hey, you work in the same hours, same job title, but because you provide that extra value, which I will compensate you for that extra value. So in wrapping up, here's what you need. And these are the key aspects. You need qualifications because these qualifications open doors. You need to keep growing because if you stay stagnant, you will start to stink. You need to ensure that the environment you're around is an environment that is conducive of growth. So if you are needing sunlight, find the sunlight. Don't be a plant and be stunted. You need to always solve problems because solving problems will bring you opportunities. You must be calculated with your risk. And finally, your salary is not about the hours you work. Your salary is about the value you provide. So bottom line, skill up yourself today and secure your tomorrow.